Are human beings inherently good or inherently bad? Are we born good or born bad? This is a debate that has been raging through the ages, and I just happened to recently stumble across on YouTube a debate between Rabbi Pini Dunner and Dennis Prager, and they were debating this very subject. Are human beings inherently good or evil? Or in Dennis's side of the argument, just neutral, neither inherently good or evil, but certainly unless some kind of work is done, they're going to lean towards making the bad choice in life. So from Rabbi Pini Dunner's side of the argument, he was saying we are inherently good. He was saying, look, the Bible says that human beings are created in God's image. Yes, if we choose the easier option, we may choose to do bad, but human beings throughout history have chosen to rise above their negative inclinations and to do good and to be righteous. Of course, they've also chosen to do the opposite, but we do have it within our core and within our nature to be good because we are good. On the other hand, Dennis Prager was saying you wouldn't need a Torah, you wouldn't need a Bible to tell you all these things to do if we would not do them anyway, or if we would be good anyway. So clearly, the Torah's basic assumption is that we are not born good. So I wanted to give you, I wouldn't necessarily say my perspective, but how I've understood Judaism's perspective to be on this matter from my own learning and understanding, particularly flavoured by my learning of Hasidus or Hasidut. So the picture goes like this. First of all, even if, let's say, we are born inherently bad or inherently not good, let's not beat ourselves up about that, as some people like to do. You know, people say, oh, yeah, we're all sinners and we're all ashamed and we should be so grateful that God forgives us. And, well, hold on one second. Even if we are inherently bad, whose fault is that? Right? If that's how we are by nature, then we were created that way. So you can't blame us or get so angry at the human being for being so terrible if that's just the way we inherently are, right? We are created beings. Just to make the point and take the heat out of it almost, even if we are not inherently good, we shouldn't necessarily feel so guilty and bad about that because we were designed as we were designed. So that's point one. But point two, and I think this gets to the crux of it, is that I actually think they're both right, but it depends how deep you're going. So let's go all the way back to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve were two pure souls and they did not have a Yetzer Hara, an evil inclination. And if you look at the story through a Hasidic lens, the idea is that they didn't sin, but they concluded rather, that God needed them to go to the lowest of all worlds and to fix it. To go to a world in which we would have to battle between good and evil, where we would have an evil inclination in which there would be suffering and there would be challenge and there would be death. And part of creating that lowest world, they would have to violate a commandment of God, so to speak, and not do what he told them to do, even though from the Hasidic perspective, he actually wanted them to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil so that they would go down to this lowest world and build it into a place of godliness where God could dwell in the lowest of all worlds. But when we think about it from that perspective, we understand two very important things. Number one, our evil inclination is something that's been foisted upon us as a product of living in this lowest world. It does not represent our essence. Number two, at our core, we may have, at a more superficial level, things pulling us in good direction and a bad direction, but at our core, we are good, we are godly, we're divine beings that are burdened with the challenges of this lowest of all worlds. So every morning we say in our prayers, one of the first things we're meant to say in the morning is Elokai neshama shenasata bi tahurahi. God, the soul that you place within me is pure. My soul at its core is good. And the bad decisions that I make are only affecting me at a superficial level because it's a result of something superficial, a Yetzer Hara, an evil inclination that's been foisted upon me. But at my core, my essence, I only want to cleave to goodness, to cleave to godliness, as we did in the Garden of Eden. You know, to say that Adam and Eve were somehow tempted by their evil inclination, they didn't have an evil inclination until they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? So It really is a fundamental question of how you read the story of Adam and Eve. If they elected to eat from the tree so they could go down to the lowest world and correct it and fight the battles of good and evil, the temptations of good and evil, then you can conclude two things. Number one, that the push towards doing evil is there, it's very real, but it's at a superficial level. And number two, at our deepest level, we are pure godly beings. And this is such an important message because it's so much more hopeful this way, to believe that actually, yes, those forces are very real that force us to do evil, but they're not representative of our core. And if we dig down deep enough, if we search deep enough, we'll find within not just ourselves, but with other human beings, we'll also find within them goodliness and godliness. There was a man who once approached the late Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he said, I'm so in despair of human nature. I feel like, we're all fake and nice at the surface, but you just dig a little deep and everyone's out for themselves. Everyone's selfish. Everyone is just doing what works for them with no regard for everyone else, and human nature is inherently bad. And the Rebbe said, it's interesting. You drive around this suburb and everything looks very nice and very pretty, but you dig a little bit beneath the surface, you'll find sewers, you'll find dirt, you'll find rats. And the guy replied to the Rebbe, he said, this is exactly my point. People can seem nice at a surface level, but you dig a little bit deeper and you'll just find negative impulses and ulterior motives and just selfishness. And the Rebbe said, yes, but then what happens if you dig even deeper into the earth? Then you'll start to come across minerals, rare natural resources, even diamonds. You keep digging a bit further and you'll start to find the real gold. And his point was, yes, human beings, if you dig a little bit into their character, you'll find a mishmash, a turmoil of all kinds of motivations and forces pulling them in all different directions. But that's something that's been imposed upon us. So yes, in that sense, Dennis Prager is correct. We do have, in our created condition that we've been in since we left the Garden of Eden, we do have this condition where the easier thing, the perhaps more natural thing, will be to do what's easy and what's wrong. But keep going a little bit deeper within yourself and within others, and there we believe exactly what Rabbi Dunner was saying and what Torah teaches us, that all those negative impulses and drives are things that are superficial, imposed upon us, there to test us, to help us to grow and build a more perfect and godly world. But at our core, we seek goodness. We don't actually need that much at all. We just want to be here for others and to give and to serve. That is what you'll find if you dig down deep enough. Beneath all the turmoil, dig deeper, and there you'll find the diamonds. There you'll find the gold. I'm Ollie Annisfeld, and you're watching JTV.